After the tragic event 9/11, one of the most horrific time on American soil, George W. Bush rose in a time of sorrow and made an ultimate decision in American history that caused many controversies over how it has protected America against terrorism to breaking human rights and amendments. This is known as the Patriot Act of 2001.
Every nation in every region now has a decision to make. Either you are with us or you are with the terrorists.
On September 11, 2001, the terrorist group Al-Qaeda coordinated 4 attacks against the U.S., one of them being the World Trade Center. 19 militias of the terrorist group were inside of America and hijacked 4 planes, in which then they began their attack. Around 8:40 a.m. in New York, the first airplane hit the North Tower of the World Trade Center. All the residents of New York thought it was an accident and were scared as fears started to rise. News came to George W. Bush at Sarasota, Florida, in Emma E. Booker Elementary, about the crash on the North Tower. While the news rested on him during his time with the second graders of Emma E. Booker Elementary, at 9:03 a.m. another plane crashed. However, this time it was the South Tower. Bush's advisor Andy Carter took immediate response and told President Bush, "A second plane hit the second tower. America is under attack." In the midst of the chaos, firefighters and police officers rushed to the tower, while the residents of New York ran away from destruction. At 9:59 a.m., the South Tower of the World Trade Center fell, 56 minutes after the airplane crash. At 10:28, the North Tower fell as well. After the horrific event of the fall of the World Trade Center, George W. Bush had a word for the nation.
Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts. The victims were in airplanes or in their offices, secretaries, businessmen and women, military and federal workers, moms and dads, friends and neighbors. A great people has been moved to defend a great nation. Terrorist attacks can shake the foundations of our biggest buildings, but they cannot touch the foundation of America. These acts shatter steel, but they cannot dent the steel of American resolve. Today, our nation saw evil, the very worst of human nature.
On the day of 9/11, there were over 2,000 victims deceased. This has struck the hearts of the American people, but strengthened their anger against terrorists as well. While the world was quiet for the souls of the deceased, George W. Bush had plans to fight back and defend themselves from terrorists. For the span of 6 weeks of George W. Bush talking to the world about that horrific day, and speeches from meetings, on October 26, 2001, he enacted the USA Patriot Act, uniting and strengthening America by providing appropriate tools required to intercept and obstruct terrorism.
In this conflict, there is no neutral ground. If any government sponsors the outlaws and killers of innocents, they have become outlaws and murderers themselves. We did not ask for this mission, but we will fulfill it.
During George W. Bush's presidency, he started off with improving America's defenses. With the Patriot Act and Homeland Security Act, this was to protect American citizens from terrorist attacks and prevent any within American borders. He wanted to have America prepared to defend the next attacks, while at the same time, he prepared his own offenses. From 2001 to 2003, President Bush targeted terrorist training camps in order to disrupt the Taliban regime with Operation Enduring Freedom. He declared war after a peaceful approach of demands, asking the Taliban to surrender all of those who were part of the Al-Qaeda network and return all foreign nationals. They refused, and on March 19, 2003, Operation Iraqi Freedom was in place, or commonly known as the Iraq War. This was to end the Taliban regime plus other terrorist groups, liberate Iraq from Saddam Hussein's tyranny, and their main target, Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda and lead planner of 9/11. While engaged in war with Iraq, President Bush's operations were going successfully. However, his defensive measurements had flaws. The Patriot Act of 2001 allowed government surveillance throughout America. Under Section 225 of the Patriot Act, it allowed the government to wiretap its American citizens. At the same time, collect bulk amount of data by going through their email, text messages, and any other form of communication or data. This struck outrage to the citizens of America, causing debates all around. One of the most famous figures that supported the Patriot Act was General John Ashcroft, that defended it, claiming it has worked in the past. Although most of the people in America had mixed feelings, some accepted the terms of the current situation America was in, war against terrorism, but others retaliated, calling it unconstitutional and in violation with the amendments. The perks of the Patriot Act allowed government agencies to cooperate more through information sharing. Since the Patriot Act allowed government surveillance and sharing information with other government agencies, it has made catching terrorists and criminals easier to prevent future attacks. As the Heritage Foundation states that over 50 terrorist attacks have been thwarted, 47 of them being the result of law enforcement and intelligence agencies working together. However, on the other side of the debate, most of the people argued on how it violates the amendments, with Section 225 and 505 imposing the First and Fourth Amendment. At the same time, it infringes the Bill of Rights, and they counter, claiming that it has catch more criminals than terrorists, such as drug dealers. On November 2, 2004, George W. Bush was re-elected when going against Senator John Kerry. As President Bush continues with his presidency, during this time, he urged the Congress to reauthorize the Patriot Act in December 10, 2005. The reason being, it was starting to expire.
Since its passage after the attacks of September the 11th, 2001, the Patriot Act has proved essential to fighting the war on terror and preventing our enemies from striking America again. This week's agreement would renew all 16 provisions of the Patriot Act that are scheduled to expire at the end of this month, and it would make 14 of these provisions permanent.
Reauthorizing would allow the 16 provisions of the Patriot Act to be renewed, and 14 of them becoming permanent, meaning that it will still collect bulk amount of data invading people's privacy in order to protect them against terrorism. In March 9, 2006, it was reauthorized and signed into law by George W. Bush.
As we wage the war on terror overseas, we're also going after the terrorists here at home. And one of the most important tools we have used to protect the American people is the Patriot Act.
With the Patriot Act renewed and some of its provisions becoming permanent, the collecting of data still continued on. Although George W. Bush was successful in liberating Iraq and slowing down the Taliban regime and other terrorist networks, America has still not been able to find Osama bin Laden. As years passed of endless searches, George W. Bush left office in January 29, 2009, and Barack Obama took his place, becoming the 44th President of the United States. It was then soon he made it top priority to find Osama bin Laden. He was briefed with a possible lead on his location, and after months of analyzing the information, they found the location of Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. It was then on May 2, 2011, an operation was carried out, and Osama bin Laden was killed in action.
Good evening. Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda, and a terrorist who's responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children. The cause of securing our country is not complete, but tonight we are once again reminded that America can do whatever we set our mind to. That is the story of our history. Whether it's the pursuit of prosperity for our people, or the struggle for equality for all our citizens, our commitment to stand up for our values abroad, and on nights like this one, we can say to those families who have lost loved ones to Al-Qaeda's terror, justice has been done.
The Patriot Act began from the tragic event 9/11. On that year, it was President George W. Bush who enacted this bill and has led to many controversies over how it has protected America against terrorism, to its flaws in breaking human rights and amendments. It has triumphed in doing what it was created for, uniting and strengthening America by providing appropriate tools required to intercept and obstruct terrorism. It also had a great cost, causing more tragedy after 9/11, breaking the people of America's trust by taking their rights, amendments, and others. After everything that was done from 2001 to 2010, the Patriot Act performed well for how it was created, taking down terrorists, obstructing their plans, and strengthening plus uniting America. At the same time, broken the American people's trust and failed to find Osama bin Laden. 4 years after his death, the Patriot Act ended and was replaced with the USA Freedom Act on June 2, 2015.